Hi, my name is Jesse with Cisco Academy Help, the instructional video series that hopefully teaches you a little bit more in-depth information about the world of Cisco. And the point of this instructional video is to help you get in a deeper understanding of the materials that you've read throughout the week and how it relates to the labs. So far through chapter 3, you've learned about the rules of communication, establishing communication, as well as the format, size, and time for communication, as well as the message delivery options like unicast, multicast, and broadcast traffic, right? Unicast, one person, multicast, many people, broadcast, everyone. As well as that, you've learned about the protocols and the rules that govern that communication, as well as some of the protocol that we use for communication, like HTTP, DNS, DHCP within the application layer, and then come down to like UDP and TCP within the transport layer, as well as IP and routing protocols within the network layer, and then Ethernet, all that kind of crazy stuff. We also looked at the reference models of TCP/IP and OSPF and how they're the same and different, as well as the who, what, where, and why, and how everything got started. It might seem again like a fire hose of information, but it's all really good stuff. Some of it you can chew on and kind of learn about, but when it comes to the OSI model, it's very important stuff. Definitely learn that, and as well as pick up some of the protocols because we'll be using it throughout the whole entire academy. So let's go ahead and jump right into the packet tracer. Today's packet tracer is 3.2.4.6, investigating the TCP/IP and OSPF models in action. The objectives of today is to examine the HTTP web traffic, as well as display elements of the TCP/IP protocol suite. Just going down to the background, this simulation activity is intended to provide a foundation of understanding of the TCP/IP protocol suite and the relationship of the OSI model. Simulation mode allows you to view the data contents being sent across the network at each layer. As data moves across that and through the network, it is broken down into smaller pieces and identified so that the pieces can be put back together when they arrive at the destination. Each piece is assigned a specific name, a PDU or a protocol data unit, and associated with a specific layer of the TCP/IP and OSPF model. Sorry, OSPF, OSI model. Packet tracer simulation mode enables you to view each of the layers and the associated PDU. The following steps lead the user through the process of requesting a web page from web server and using the web browser application available within the client PC. All right, so we got the virtualization terminal right here. If you look over here, what we're going to be talking about is how to examine packets within Packet Tracer. And to do that, you have these two tabs down here at the bottom. You have the real-time and the simulation mode tabs down here at the bottom. The real time, and that allows you to go ahead and send information and communication between devices within real time, just like you would in real life. But the simulation mode breaks down the communication so you can see exactly what's going on within each packet. Okay, so again, within step one, it says in the lower left-hand corner of the packet tracer interface are tabs, toggle between real-time and simulation mode. The packet tracer always starts in real-time mode, in which network protocols operate with realistic timing. However, a powerful feature of packet tracer allows the user to stop time by switching to simulation mode. In simulation mode, packets are displayed as animated envelopes. Time is an event driven, and the user can step through the network events. Okay, so it goes in and tells you to click through there, and then we're going to go ahead and go through some of the options that the simulation mode has. For section B right here, it says select HTTP from the events list filter. So the event list filter is right down here at the bottom. You can expand that if you want, but from here you can go ahead and show all the different protocols that it offers. I think it's up to like 32 or something like that, somewhere in the 30s of the amount of protocols you can go ahead and show within Packet Tracer, or you can go ahead and take them all off like we just did there. I believe what they want though is for us to go ahead and put in an individual protocol, HTTP. So to do that, we'll go ahead and click Edit Filters, and it goes ahead and breaks it down into IPv4, IPv6, and then also miscellaneous protocols. And we want to click on HTTP, and then you can just click off just like that. All right, so we basically covered this section. Let's go ahead and skip down to generating web HTTP traffic. Okay, excuse me. Okay, currently the simulation panel is empty. As we look right here, there's nothing in it. There are 6 columns listed across the top of the event list within the simulation panel. So they're talking about the event list, which is right here. And we can see right here we have 6 columns. We have vision, which brings up an icon of an eye, letting you know what you're looking at. You have time, which is the time it takes to go ahead and sends the information. Last device, the last device that you're looking at, the device you're at, the type of protocol you're using, and the info that's associated with that bit of information. Okay, as traffic is generated, I'm reading right from here, as traffic is generated and stepped through, events appear in the list. The info column is used to inspect the contents of the particular event, which I just said, and I'll show you more about later. Note, the web server and the web client are displayed on the left panel right here. So you have a web server and web client right there. And it tells you right here in the section that you can go ahead and resize the windows as you deem appropriate. So you can do that. And you can also, if you want to, you can zoom in or zoom out on your devices by doing that. All right. Coming down to A, click on the web client in the left panel. Web client, click. Move this over to here. Okay, it's going to want us to bring up the desktop and click on the web browser. Go ahead and click on that. And then in the URL, it's asking us to type in www.osi.local. And then you can press enter or you can go to go. And since we're in simulation mode, nothing happens. Just sits there. We'll go ahead and bring that down here. Right down here. And we'll hide that window. All right. Like I just said, okay, it said because we're in simulation mode, it is event driven. You must use the capture forward button display network events. To do that, your captured forward button is right here. You also have this autoplay, which will go ahead and work its way through its events without you having to hit the capture forward, which is forward, or you have autoplay, and then you have the back button to go back. So we'll go ahead and we'll click capture forward. And hey, we have an event. And it says go ahead and click the capture forward button 4 times. So that's 1, 2. And if you look, you can see the envelope over here on the left panel going from the client to the web server. Okay. 3, we have the server sending the envelope back. And then our 4th time, we get this nice little green check mark on the envelope letting us know success. So, okay. Oh, it's okay. Right underneath here, it says, look at the web client browser page. Did anything change? Well, let's go ahead and pull that back up. We can either click on the client or I already just kind of brought this down here and we can see, voila, web server. You have successfully accessed the home page of the web server. Congratulations. All right, we'll go ahead and we'll minimize that window and go on to step 3. Exploring the contents of HTTP packets. A, click the first colored square under the event list info column. Okay, so again, there's your event list right there, and our first box is right there. We just clicked on that. We'll bring this over to here. And this is the PDU information and device window. And it's showing right now the web client, that's the device that we're at, and the source, again, is still web client. And the destination is HTTP client. We'll go into more of that information later. We'll go ahead and we'll just read through this section very quickly. The PDF information and device web client window displays. In this window, there are only two tabs, the OSI model right there in the upper left corner of that, and the outbound PDU details right there. So you got the two tabs. Because this is the start of the transmission, that's the only reason why you only have those two. As more events are examined, there will be three tabs that end up displaying, adding a tab of inbound PDU details. So right now we have the OSI model, the outbound, and eventually there'll be an inbound PDU details. When an event is the last event in the stream of traffic, only the OSI model and the inbound PDU details are displayed, letting you know that you're completing the transaction. Okay? Go down to B. Ensure that the OSI model tab is selected. Check. Under the Out Layers column, ensure that Layer 7 is highlighted, which it is. So we have our out layers and Layer 7 is selected. Okay, as we go over this next section, I'm just going to point out some things that it's trying to inform you as it asks you each one of these questions. If you're looking right here, again, we're in the OSI model, okay, which there are 7 layers, like your favorite 7-layer burrito of the OSI model. And, hopefully you're learning how to remember those layers, your presentation layer, your application layer, your presentation layer, your session layer, your transport layer, your network layer, your data link layer, and finally your physical layer. And you can figure out different phrasings to go ahead and, sentences to help you remember that, like all people seem to need data processing. From the top bottom, and each one of those words associates with the different layer, as well as please don't do not throw sausage pizza away. So you have the please, which is the physical layer, do is the data link layer, not is the network layer, throw is transport layer, session is the sausage, presentations pizza, and then application layer away. So there's all kinds of different ways of memorizing that, but hopefully you'll spend some time and just learn that, because the OSI model is really the most important model that we focus in on. The TCP/IP is the one that we do use for communication, but the OSI model is a much easier way of understanding how communication works within the network. Okay, so going back over to B, what is the text displayed next to layer 7 labeled? So you have layer 7, we have HTTP. So we are making a request over to the web server. Web traffic, unless it's secured, is HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, right? Okay, so that is the answer to that question. What information is listed in the number steps directly below the in layers and out layers box? So if you come here, have in and out, you have this little information tiblet down here, diblet, niblet, whatever you want to call it. Niblet, that's a good one. Okay, it says the HTTP client sends a HTTP request to the server. Okay, so that's what the application layer is doing at that point. We go ahead and we go to C, and it says click the next layer. To do that, you have these different layer buttons, previous layer and next layer. We'll go ahead and we'll click the next layer, and it goes down to layer 4. The question is, layer 4 should be highlighted. what is the DST port value? Okay. Now it says layer 4 and it gives you this TCP SRC port, which stands for source port. So it tells you the source port, and the source port of that is 1025, and then the DST port, which stands for destination port, which is port 80. These ports, as you'll learn, are associated to protocols. The source port is generally something random that it was chosen by the computer when it's requesting information. The destination ports are usually associated with a protocol. For example, HTTP is associated with port 80. So think of it this way: you have Europe over here and you have America over here, and we're going to go ahead and send information out of England, which is port 1025, but it wants to be able to get HTTP information, and the only way to do that is to go out request information from port 80 in I don't know, New York, okay? And so that's HTTP traffic is associated with that port. So as you go through and you'll learn things like HTTPS is associated with port 443 and so on and so forth, with all these different protocols, you will also learn those port numbers. So don't freak out, you will learn that. And so we can see right now we're also using TCP as opposed to UDP traffic within layer 4. If we come down to this little section right here, it says sent segment information. The sequence number is set at 1, the acknowledged number is set at 1, and the data length is 102. These are part of the handshake that happens between two different devices. You'll get more information about that in the future, but just be aware that information is all part of the three-way handshake that happens within the communication between two different devices. All right, so D, it says you should be on layer 3. You can click the next, or you can actually physically highlight it. What is the destination IP value? Well, if we look over here, it says layer 3, and we're using the protocol IP, so IP internet protocol within the network layer. The IP address from the source is 192.168.1.1. Okay, that is your personal IP address for routing on the internet. And then you have your destination IP, which is the IP address that you're using to try to get to somebody. This is all routable addresses for the network, okay? And if you look underneath here in this the niblet below, it says the destination address is the same in the same subnet. The device sets the next hop to destination. Okay, so basically it's saying that this address is in the same network as that address. That's what that's letting you know. All right, E, the next layer. What information is displayed at this layer? Okay, so we'll go down to the next layer. And we have layer 2. Layer 2 is your data link layer. It's where things like MAC addresses are stored. MAC addresses are your physical address to your device. So you have your physical address that's associated with your PC, and then you have your IP addresses, which are associated to your information that's going to be sent out onto the network. You'll learn more about it. Don't get too confused on it or hung up. Just realize there's two addresses, like you have your street address and you have the name of your street. So you have the number, the name of your street, and those two things make up your address. I'm just making that up right now. So hopefully maybe that helps you. Okay, let's go ahead and cursor down. And it says click on the Outbound PDU Details tab. So we'll go ahead and we'll click on that. And we'll go ahead and read through this first before I start explaining it. It says information listed under the PDU details is reflected of the layers within the TCP/IP model. Okay, so we have the OSI model, and then we have the TCP/IP model. Note, the information listed under Ethernet 2 section provides even more detailed information than is listed under the layer 2 of the OSI model, which is saying that, hey, it's breaking it down into more information compared to what's over here. As you can tell, yeah, there's a lot more information there. The outbound PDU details provides more descriptive and detailed information. The values under the destination MAC and source MAC within Ethernet 2 section of the PDU details appears in the OSI model tab underneath layer 2, but is not identified as such. So basically what it's saying right there is, if we went back to the OSI model, is that it's not identifying itself right here as a MAC address. But if we come over here to the outbound, we can see right here we have our destination MAC and we have our source MAC, and it's actually identifying that for you, so it's a little bit easier to see, I guess. Coming down a little bit, it says, what is the common information listed underneath the IP section of the PDU details as compared to the information listed in the OSI model? So what common information do we have? Well, if we come, let's see, we're talking IP. So we have our source and destination IP. We come over our OSI model, and look at that. We have source IP and destination IP. Same on layer 3. So that's what's similar. And which layer is it associated with? Okay, so again, layer 3, you have IP addresses. IP addresses is for the network. Okay, it's a routable IP address. So we're at the network layer. And then with the TCP/IP, you're talking about the transport. No, I'm sorry, not transport. You have your internet layer, because we're talking about the internet. Okay. Next thing, what is the host listed under HTTP section of the PDU details? So we come down here and we look at HTTP details, and we can see host. Hey, there's your web address. Yeah, so that's the answer for that. Now I could go into this information right here. I'm gonna kind of outline a little bit. So you have your four layers within the TCP/IP. You have down here at the bottom, you have HTTP, which is reflecting the application layer within TCP/IP. And then you have TCP, which is reflected to your transport layer. Okay. Yeah, your transport layer, which is your layer 3. And then you have the IP address, which is associated to your internet layer, and then Ethernet 2, that's right down at your network access layer. Okay, so if you're getting confused at which box is what and what it's associated with, that's what it's associated with. Okay, let's see. Okay, and then what layer? It's asking right here, what layer would this information be associated with? Application layer, right? HTTP, application layer. Pretty simple. All right, now I want us to go ahead and close this and exit back out. It says click on the next colored square box underneath the event list info column. Okay, so we were at number 1. Let's go to number 2. Bring that right over here. Only layer 1 is active, not grayed out. This device is moving the frame from the buffer and placing it on the network. Okay, so basically if we were to go ahead and look at the last event, and if we went underneath layer 1, we can see the last thing that it does right here when it's sending the frame out is buffering the frame. And understanding the different names of encapsulation as you go through this chapter, you'll learn more about that. But coming from the transport layer down to the network layer, down to your data link layer, each time that information comes down, that PDU comes down, it changes its name. So you go from in transport layer, you have a segment, and that PDU moves down, and it goes into the network layer, where it becomes a packet of information, and then that PDU comes down from there into the data link layer, where it becomes a frame. Remember those terms. Those terms are gold, absolute gold. I can't tell you how many times I've had test questions where I looked at the question and I didn't know what the answer was, but it used a word like frames. And that told me automatically that it was layer 2, which opened up a treasure trove of information in my head of what the answer could be. Or when it talks about packets, I know it's automatically layer 3, and that opens up a whole new catalog of information of what the answer could be. So start memorizing those things where you have segment, you have packet, you have frame, and PDUs. It's gold. So right now, it's saying right now the frame is buffering. And if we go ahead and we click back over to this, it says that if we look in the little Tiblet down here at the bottom, the device taking out this frame from buffering and sending it out. So it's taking it out and sending out Ethernet 0. Very cool. All right. Advance to the next HTTP info. So we'll click on that, which is our next. And we have all kinds of information here now. We have communication. We have in layers and out layers. So the in layers is the information that's coming from what? The web client. Sorry, the web server. And then the out layers is what's going, back to the web client, which is the PC that's requested this information. Okay. If you look, and we'll read through this real quick. The window contains both in layers and out layers. Notice the direction of the arrows directly under the in layer column as it points upward, which indicates the direction that the information is traveling. So if you look right down here, you have an arrow. It's very difficult to see, I apologize, but it's there. You have an arrow that says, hey, the information is traveling this way. And how encapsulation works is that each layer has to be encapsulated by the exact same layer when it gets to a location. So right now, we're going through de-encapsulation, right? So we're moving our way up and going up to the application layer. So it de-encapsulates here at the physical layer, and then makes its way up from there. And then it cuts over from the in layers to the out layers to this application layer over here, and it re-encapsulates going back down to the physical layer. Coming back over to here, scroll through these layers, making note of the items previously viewed. At the top of the column, the arrow points right, denotes the server is now sending the information back to the client. All right, compare the information and what's the major differences between these two. Okay, so pretty easy. Obviously, layer 7 is the same. Layer 4 is different. We're saying the source port that it's coming from is 1025. The destination port is port 80. Over here, it's the opposite, right? The source port that it's coming from the server is source port 80, and its destination back to the client PC is back at 1025. We're coming down here, so we have our source IP address from the client of 192.168.1.1, and the destination was the web server, right? Okay, and it goes back out. It's going from the source IP address of the web server, which is 192.168.1.254, going to the destination IP address of the client's PC. And the same goes with the MAC addresses, especially since we're not having to deal with any other hardware in between the two devices. They're both the same, just flip-flopped. And then obviously no difference between the layer 1. All right. I. Click the Outbound PDU Details tab. Scroll down to HTTP section. What is the first line in the HTTP message that is displayed? Okay, so we're going to click on Outbound. And it says scroll down to the HTTP section, which is your application layer. And what is the first line in the HTTP message? It says, okay. That's all it says, right? So going on to J, click on the last colored square box in the column, under the info column. How many tabs are displayed within this event and why? Okay, so you can see we have all 3 tabs here. Let's go ahead and click on that last one. And which tabs are being shown? We talked about it earlier. We have the OSI model, and then finally, inbound PDU details. Again, when it's the last line of communication that's happening between 2 devices, it will only show the inbound. It's the first one, it's outbound. Outbound first, inbound last. Got it? Good. Many times? Okay. So let's go down to part 2, displaying elements of the TCP/IP protocol suite. Okay. Step 1, view additional events. Close any open PDU information windows. Okay, so we'll go and we'll close that. And the event list filters, which again, right down here at the bottom, show all different protocols. So we'll go ahead and we'll click that. And immediately when you click on it, it turns them all off. Click on it again, turns everything on. And you have a whole litany of different protocols that are just popping up here. A nice little colored light show for you. All right. What additional event types are displayed? Well, you have DNS, you have ARP here, you have TCP. What else do you got? You have HTTP, which we were looking at earlier. So we have, a small little handful of protocol types that we're looking at. I'll go ahead and I'll read through this quickly. These extra entries play various roles within the TCP/IP suite. If the address resolution protocol ARP is listed, it searches MAC addresses. DNS is responsible for converting a name such as www.osi.local to IP addresses. The additional TCP events are responsible for connecting, agreeing, and communicating parameters and disconnecting the communication sessions between the devices. These protocols have been mentioned previously and will be further discussed within the course as the course progresses. Currently, there's over 35, so 35 possible protocol event types available for capture within Packet Tracer. Okay, so what this was saying is that the protocols that are being used for each one of the layers of communication are being displayed here. And what they were talking about with Address Resolution Protocol, otherwise known as ARP, it helps you go ahead and, if you're using a switch or anything like that, to go ahead and find out what is the MAC what is the MAC address and what location that MAC address is. When you're talking about DNS, the domain name service, you're talking about taking IP addresses and associating those IP addresses with names, or names with associated with IP addresses. Because when you type in a URL, you're typing www.google.com. That isn't its actual address. The IP address is the actual address, and it uses the DNS service to go ahead and transition the name to the IP address. So that's what it's trying to tell you there. All right. Click the first DNS event in the info column. Okay, first one right there, we click the event. All right, explore the OSI model and the PDU details tab and note the encapsulation process. All right, so we have the OSI model and the PDU details. And we can kind of take a look here. And again, as it goes through each layer, up or down, it encapsulates that information. And like I discussed earlier, when you're talking about the transport layer, you're talking about network, you're talking about data link, you're talking about different names for that information as it gets re-encapsulated, like frame packets and blah, 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 whatever the other one is. It's slipping my brain at this moment. But we can kind of see the different layers of encapsulation as it goes. Segment, there it is. Okay, segment within the transport layer. Okay, so let's see. Let's look at the info. Okay, blah, blah, blah. As you look at the OSI model on OSI Model tab within layer 7, highlighted, a description of what is occurring is listed directly below the in layers and out layers. Right here, okay, it says the DNS client sends a DNS query to the DNS server. Typically, DNS is stored either on your PC. Well, it's definitely stored on your PC, but it's also stored on the router or a local domain, like your ISP will store that DNS information. So it's asking the DNS server at this point, what is the IP address that is associated with this name. Where were we? Okay. Okay. This is very helpful information to help you understand what is occurring during the communication process. Let's go to D. Click through the outbound PDU details. What information is listed in the name in the DNS query section? So we'll go ahead and go to outbound PDU and we'll scroll down here. And as we look in the DNS answer, we can see there's our URL, www.osi.local. So that is the request, the DNS request. Okay. As we come to E, click to the last DNS info colored square box in the event list. So we'll go ahead and we'll click out of this. We'll go to the last DNS, which is right there. Okay. Which device is this displayed on? Well, the web client, right? Web client says it right there. It says what device we're at. All right. What is the value listed next to the address in the DNS answer section of the inbound PDU details? Blah, 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 blah. Whole big mouthful. What it says is this. Click on the outbound PDU details right there. Scroll all the way down to the bottom and you look at the DNS answer. And the answer to the DNS request of what is this website's IP address is right here. There's the IP address of 192.168.1.254. Pretty simple. It's good stuff. DNS. It will save your life. Letter F. Find the first HTTP event in the list and click the colored square of the TCP event immediately following this event. Okay, so we'll close out that and we'll find the first HTTP event, which is right there, and then click the box that's associated with the TCP event right there. It goes ahead and opens it up. Pretty straightforward. All right, highlight layer 4. So we'll highlight the layer 4, which is your transport layer in the OSI Model tab. And the numbered listed directly below the in and outbound. Okay, so it's asking what items is displayed in 4 and 5 within this information right down here. It says the TCP connection is successful, and the device sets the connection status to established. So it's established that connection between the client PC and the web server at this point. All right. And as it says right here, the TCP manages the connection and disconnects and disconnecting of the communication channel along with the other responsibilities. This particular event shows the communication channel has been established, like I just said. So click on G, click the last TCP event. So we'll go ahead and close out of this, and we'll look for the last TCP event, which is all the way down at the bottom. Clicking on that, bring that over here. Highlight layer 4. There we go. Of the OSI model. Examine the steps listed directly below the layers. So we have our list of steps right here at the bottom. What is the purpose of this event? Based on the information provided in the last item in the list, should be item number 4. Well, right here it says that the connection has been closed at this point, letting you know the communication has ended, and you have the information that you requested. Pretty straightforward. All right. Under challenge, I'll just go ahead and read this real quick. This simulation provides an example of the web session between a client and server on a local area network, just a LAN. We haven't even worked on WANs yet, so it's just we're talking about a LAN right now. The client makes requests to a specific service running on a server. The server must be set up to listen on a specific port of the client for the client to request. Okay, so for a hint, it tells you to go ahead and look at the layer 4 of the OSI model for that port information. It gives you 2 questions. It says, based on the information that was inspected during the packet tracer capture, what port number is the web server listening on for web requests? I think I mentioned it, but if not, go back and look at it. And it gives you another question, what port is the web server listening on for DNS requests? One of those questions, the answer will be port 80. You have to figure out the other one by the information, but that'll give you a little head start there, what you need to be looking for. Other than that, we are done with this packet tracer. Yes, this was a long one, but I wanted to try to explain the different aspects of the packet tracer software, how it works, and again, how the information that you're learning through the chapter thus far associates to the lab. And I hope that it was informative and it's helped you out. If you have any questions, definitely leave me feedback. You can put it within the YouTube video, or you can email me at notciscoacademyhelp@gmail.com. I try to get back to any emails that are sent as quickly as possible, but you can reach me there. And as always, keep pressing into it. Don't get too overwhelmed. This information is coming at you fast and heavy. Just lean into it and continue to plug away. All right? Have a great one.